everybody, and welcome to Now You're Playing with Power, a Nintendo podcast. This, my friends, is the time in which we break the barriers of the single digit and jump headfirst into the double. This is our 10th episode of the show, and as a result, it's going to be a little bit special. We have a cool segment plan coming up, but before we talk about any of that, I'm going to introduce the guy who has been sitting alongside me for these past 10 episodes. That is Bally. How are you doing today, Bally?
I'm good, NBZ. Yeah, I was just reminiscing about my 10th birthday, because, you know, the big 1-0.
Right?
Do you have any memories of your 10th?
My 10th birthday, I think, wow, did I get
I think it involved a lot of Coca-Cola and pizza or something. That's what most birthdays
Yeah, probably.
had.
It probably involved, a PS1 or something. I'm pretty sure I got, Tomb Raider or something on my 10th birthday.
What?
Yeah, good times indeed. But we're here to discuss the 10th episode of Now You're Playing with Power, and in traditional fashion, we're gonna kick off the show with what we've been playing. But we have an interesting feature coming up, Bally. So I'm gonna lay that out for the listeners.
Yes, so to celebrate our 10th episode, we thought we'd do sort of a retrospective of the entire lifetime of the Wii and sort of the launch period, the run up to the console coming out, and then talk about some of our favorite games from the very start of the life cycle right up until the end. So I think we're going to split that into two segments also.
Yeah, so we're not going to have any listener mail this week. We do have a good amount to jump into in the next show, but we're going to concentrate.
Send us more.
Yeah, send us more, of course. Email address nyppquestions@gmail.com, as per usual. But without further ado, we're just going to jump straight into what we've been playing to kick things off. And Bally, we have both been playing a cool online Nintendo game.
Yeah,
So why don't you tell everyone what that is?
Yeah, so I got a text from you on, was it Thursday or Friday?
It was Friday, yeah.
And you were like, you gotta download this as a special offer to get this game. I was like, oh, okay. So I downloaded Wii Sports Club,
which is essentially the HD version of Wii Sports that they put on the eShop on the Wii U.
and it consists of bowling, golf, and tennis.
Yeah, and I think they've said that they're going to update it over, the next few months or whatever, and add the additional sports there. But those are the three they have at the moment.
I mean, my personal favorite is baseball, so I'd be keen to see if they upgrade that at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we jumped in and I played a bit by myself before playing online and with yourself, NBZ, and everything was just, it was quite sort of nostalgic, but at the same time fresh. I
Right.
felt like it was quite it was nice to jump back into Wii Sports, because obviously I don't think either of us have played it in years. Well, certainly
Yeah.
I've not played it in absolute years. So I thought the tennis feels much this. I know that they introduced the Motion Plus controls, but I thought it felt relatively much like the original in terms of the shot making and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of going on about how it was different, but in the end, I don't think it has a huge effect. I think the one thing they changed, which is like the exclamation mark and getting a smash shot
Yeah.
off the end of that, that's something that they took from Wii Sports Resort in the pinball,
Table tennis,
the
yeah.
table tennis game, yeah. And I think the table tennis game in Wii Sports Resort is definitely so much more refined. Like, you
Yeah.
can definitely feel the use of Motion Plus in that game.
Yeah, definitely.
But not so much in Wii Tennis.
Yeah, it
Whatever.
felt much like the original, but I must say that the graphics obviously look far better. And I think that the whole court itself is in like it's in a new place. It's not like the same place as the original.
Right, and I think tennis is one of those ones which they didn't actually include in Resort, so this is the
Yeah.
first time it's been upgraded since then, because I know that bowling was in Resort, and they just basically, I think, have taken, and golf as well, so I think they've taken both of those and just slapped a bit of paint on them, but tennis is the one that's probably received the biggest upgrade.
Yeah. So I mean,
which
we
is cool.
played online. We played a bit by ourselves, and then we recorded a little competition we had.
We did indeed.
And yeah, tennis went down well. I don't think either of us have improved much since
No.
2006. But Yeah, I thought it was really seamless when we were playing each other with obviously the friend code system. And
Right, it was kind of surprising that there was like no lag and it was
yeah,
really smooth and it worked so intuitively, and you were reacting like there's a point in that video that we recorded, where you mentioned like that my guy jumps forward in the replay, and the exact moment you say that, it happens on my screen. Like there
yeah.
was no delay, there was no lag whatsoever, and it's almost like shocking that this Nintendo have actually kind of got it right here.
But I should add that I later played against some random people online with tennis, and it makes me very sad to say this, but there was an incredible amount of lag. We were
Yeah.
playing, some points were just being played in slow motion, and it was the middle of the day on a Saturday, so probably in the UK when most Americans are waking up and playing their Wii Sports
Right.
Club, so
So you
perhaps
think
that
that
was it.
maybe it was someone abroad who you were playing, and that
I
was the
think it was, well, they were, I know that well, they said they were in one of the English clubs. I mean, because the whole club, Wii Sports Club, is you pick your club based on your region in the world. You
right?
don't have to be from that region to be in that club, so maybe they were lying. But they
Sure.
said they were from North France and north of England, I think. But I think I hope, and I don't know this, but I hope that it was seamless because we were friend coded and not to do with anything else.
Yeah.
Like for future games like Mario Kart and Smash Brothers, I really hope that if you have the friend code of the person, then it's more seamless. I mean, I don't know the technology behind it, obviously, but
No, of course not. So I think the one that really changed quite a bit was the golf.
yeah.
Is the most recent one they implemented, and it was using that system, which was part of the very first Wii U reveal at E3 in, I believe, 2012, or 2011, I
And
think it even
it
was.
was the thing that was touted the most, I think, as a gimmick at the time. It was
Oh,
like, oh,
definitely.
look at that, you're hitting the golf ball off the ground. Yeah.
Right. So just to explain for people who don't know, what it does is you put the gamepad on the ground and you point at the gamepad with your Wii remote as if you're holding your golf club over the ball. And on the gamepad screen, there is the ball, there is the image of your club, and there is the power meter. They've taken the power meter off of the main screen and put it down onto the gamepad so that it is more realistically simulating golf, because when you play golf, you're supposed to put your eyes on the ball and look down at the
Yeah.
ball, not look forward. And so it's kind of, honing in on that. And it was interesting because they'd really refined the sensitivity on the clubs.
Hmm.
So it's kind of difficult to get as clean a shot as you used to get in Wii Golf.
As much as we were bitching about all how difficult it was on our video, I must say that I prefer it so much more. First of all, it's more realistic in the sense that you're looking at the ground and not the screen. Secondly, it's so much more sensitive with hook and slice, which is far more realistic. Whereas in the original Wii Sports, you basically just swung through, and if you overhit it, it would randomly hook or slice. And
Yeah,
while it will still do that, it is still possible to hook and slice on what you consider a good shot. So I
yeah,
really thought that this was an improvement, and it really rewards people who have put more practice in far more than say, because I think with the original you could within a few hours maybe you could get a knack for it. You could have a terrible technique, but you could have a knack at getting the Wiimote to get reach a certain number of dots, and just based on that number of dots you could play pretty well. Whereas you simply have to have a pretty refined technique to do well in this game, which I really liked.
definitely. Now, it's an interesting kind of model they're going for in terms of selling this game, because the two options available to you are buying a day pass, which essentially allows you access to all of the games for the period of 24 hours, and you pay, I think, £2 to get access to that. And as soon as the day ends, it all goes away, and you have to buy another one if you want to play some more. Alternatively, you can buy each game individually, so you could pay $8.99 in the UK. I think maybe it's about $10 in US for each of the individual sports. Now, Bally, do you think that this is a good model? Would you prefer, for instance, if all sports were available and they had a package for all of the sports, you could just buy the entire thing for, £25 or whatever. Do you
It's
prefer that, or do you think the piecemeal solution is okay?
it's tricky because speaking from my perspective as someone who owns the original Wii Sports, the weekend pack would never really be appealing to me because either I'd want to play online with you perhaps, and we'd both have to buy the weekend pack, or I would buy the weekend pack just to play single player by myself. And I'm not. I don't think most people play much Wii Sports by themselves. I mean, I play quite a bit, but I don't play loads. So I would personally say I had you round to my house, NBZ. We'd just get out the old Wii Sports because you're in the same room. Obviously the graphics aren't quite as good, but it's still a great experience. So I think that for me, I'd want to buy the permanent 8.99, which, to be honest, is far too much money personally.
Definitely.
But I mean, if I wanted to play you online, which I think is the most fun I'm going to have out of this game, I think it'd be best if we both bought the permanent one because it saves us constantly having to sync up with weekend passes. And
Sure.
it's a real shame that they've made that permanent pass so expensive.
Yeah, it is a bit, and I don't know. It kind of reminds me of some of these free-to-play models where, for example, Plants vs Zombies 2, you have to pay for each individual plant, the ones that they don't include. I would much rather just straight up pay a price for that whole game, have the whole game, and be done with it, and not bother with stupid microtransactions. It feels very like that, where it's like, well, it's kind of free to play for a little bit if you pay a little bit, but if you pay more, then you have this, and yeah, they've kind of just cut it up piecemeal, and I'm not a huge fan of that. I would much rather, put up a straight price and go with it, but
Yeah,
there you go.
I mean, I'm from this free pass that we've had this weekend, which I thought is a great idea. Um, if it was just a little bit cheaper, and obviously if I had more space on my hard drive, I'd be totally up for just buying it now. Say it was about, let's say, £15 for the 3 sports permanently. I'd happily pay that right now and and have that on my system.
That's a good price. I think £5 per
Yeah.
sport is good.
And these are sports that we've played before, but just with improvements. So I think how many people own a Wii U but not a Wii? Very few. So
Yeah.
for those like us who have played Wii Sports, we need it needs to be cheap if they're gonna sell it to us. I mean, it needs more.
Definitely.
And I think in the future they might discount it, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, they have been real good at doing eShop sales. I'm not going to lie, every week there is at least something on sale. So yeah, there's always a chance that that's gonna
Exactly. As
happen.
much as we're talking Nintendo down, imagine if 5 years ago we'd said, "Oh yeah, there's going to be this online shop. You can get downloadable games. They're going to do sales offers, free content at times." We'd have eaten our hats.
Sure. I mean, they had an online shop before, but this one is functional and
Yeah.
actually works. So, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere.
Right.
Excellent.
Anyway.
So yeah, that was good fun. We enjoyed that. And I guess if you go over to my YouTube channel, which you just type in NBZ to YouTube, and you'll find our video there. So you can do that if you so wish. Anyway, what else have you been playing, Bally?
Yeah, so other than that, I've been playing a little bit more Need for Speed Most Wanted U, the long-winded title.
Yeah.
And last time I was complaining a bit about the specific missions where you had to evade the cops. So you start the mission, there's loads of cops after you. I love how I'm saying cops, not police. Cops after
Well, you're
you.
becoming
I
Americanized.
know, this game is just so American. And you have to outrun them, or you can hide away from them. So I was saying how I wasn't a big fan of these missions, and I must say that my attitude to those specific missions has changed because I mentioned I was stuck on a mission before, and me being me, I didn't go for a new mission. I just went back to the same mission constantly.
Just
to try
bang your head against the wall, right?
I do enjoy a good head banging in video games. So yeah, I kept doing this mission, and eventually I managed to. I sort of worked out how the meter works. So every time you're being chased by the cops, say you drive violently or start hitting the cop cars, your heat meter goes up. The second they're out of your proximity, your heat meter starts going down. So they're still chasing you when they're outside of your proximity, but your heat meter is going down, meaning that once it gets to 0, you've successfully evaded them. So I kept doing this mission, kept getting stuck. I eventually got all the cops out of my proximity, my heat meter was going down, and then I just drove literally like there's this funny sort of mansion building in a field in the game, and I just sort of drove into this sly bit at the side, and you can see that they can't find you, and they were just looking for me, patrolling all the areas around me, and I'm just like, come on, because I needed like I think under 2 minutes to get a gold, not a gold medal, to come like first place. So I was just like dying for the heat meter to just go down, and then it was literally when your car is stationary, it falls much faster. So they obviously weren't seeing me, and it just plummeted, and I did it, and I came first, and yeah, I was really happy.
Nice.
So my
Awesome.
point is that like those missions have certainly grown on me quite a bit.
Okay, that's cool. I was wondering, like, so this is an open world car game, right? Which means that you are constrained to the car, like there's no like getting out and running around.
No.
Is there actually any driver in any of these cars? Like, can you see through the windscreen that there are drivers, or are these just, cars which are being controlled themselves and there's no one inside?
No, there is a driver. He's basically like, so you obviously know Top Gear. I'm sure some of
Yeah.
our American fans won't have heard of Top Gear, but in the program Top Gear, they have a driver that they take the piss out of all the time, and he's called the Stig, and he's basically their anonymous professional driver who drives the cars fast, basically. And basically the character in Need for Speed looks exactly like the original Stig. It's just a guy in a black driving suit with a black helmet, basically.
Okay.
In some of the open top cars, he's obviously far more exposed.
Sure.
I would say.
Definitely.
But yeah, so that's all the American fans looking up who the Stig is now on Google.
Right.
But yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. So yeah, not played much more than that, I guess.
No, I haven't played a whole lot more than that. I'm gonna keep going with Need for Speed, obviously. And I'm afraid my Wii Sports Club pass is like gonna run out. So.
Yeah.
But as you know, I've just downloaded the hard drive. I've just bought a hard drive, meaning that I'm gonna have plenty of space to fill up with some games. And definitely, if Wii Sports Club goes down in price in the future, I'm gonna pick that up, I think.
Excellent.
But we'll see.
All right.
What have you been up to?
So, I have been playing the retail release of Titanfall.
Titanfall.
Yes, it has dropped into our laps, and now we must shoot every motherfucker in our sight.
Can I just ask, have you seen the Titanfall advert on TV?
So there have been a few. Which one are you referencing particularly?
It's basically just a dude walking along, and then he just like his Titan just falls down behind him, and it's pretty awesome.
Oh, I think I have seen that. Yeah.
It's very simple, but it's effective.
There was something around E3, or just after E3, Microsoft were putting out trailers for Xbox One, where it was like this office building, and these people just having a meeting, and then this Titan just like fucking smashes through the window.
That. I mean,
adverts
it's cool. Like that really do help games like that. I would say, like they just really they make people who aren't interested in the game really start talking about it. Like, what is that?
Right.
That's cool. Is this a new Transformers film?
Right. I think that's something that Nintendo could learn a lesson on, honestly, because their marketing for Wii U in general and any game that comes out for it has been horrific. It's like, who has seen a Wii U advert? Like, no one. No one even knows the system exists.
It's just the traditional, here's a celebrity with their family playing a game.
Yeah.
And here are all kids smiling and being happy.
The thing with Titanfall is that you cannot escape the advertising for that game. Everywhere I go, obviously I frequent many video game websites on the internet, but that advert is everywhere. Like, it's the game that's being pushed really hard. So, of course, I did play the beta, if we want to keep ourselves, un-Americanly tainted. Seems it's happened already twice this episode with cops.
There's plenty to come.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. So yeah, I've been playing the full release, and the main difference, really, I mean, there's not actually a huge amount of difference from the beta. The big difference is obviously far more maps. There are only 2 available in the beta. I think there's now 15 or so total maps, which are all awesome. I haven't got tired of them at all because they're enough variety, and I just haven't really had time to learn them yet. So that's awesome. And then there is extra weapons. There's more upgrades and stuff. And the main thing was the campaign mode, which they'd kind of been touting for a while, but they hadn't really explained what it was or what it did, or, it was kind of weird because there was no push on that at all. It was all talk of the multiplayer, and they said that this campaign thing existed, but no one really actually knew what it would, become its final form.
I mean, I saw a bit of the campaign mode in Giant Bomb's Quick Look, which I'd highly recommend if you've not seen it. It's good fun. But it just looks really, really weird. Like, it's just this multiplayer experience with just little talking heads popping in, and
yeah, and
really
that's
weird.
I think that's what they're trying to do. I mean, the narrative is weak. I don't even know what the fuck the story is, because I don't give a shit. Like, while I'm playing Titanfall, I'm listening to a podcast at the same time. It's actually a perfect game for such an activity, because I don't need to hear any of there's no real music that's enticing me. The ambient noise can be turned down to a level where I can still hear stuff going on, but I don't need to have it necessarily around me. Like, I'm not an MLG Pro player where I need to hear things in the right side of my ear so I can pick someone off with a fucking 360 no-scope. That's not me. I'm not going to do that shit. So it's actually like one of those perfect games for listening to podcasts with. And I listened to podcasts while I was going through the campaign mode, and someone could have told me that this was just straight up attrition multiplayer, and I would have believed them, because all there is really is there's a couple of set pieces, a few things blow up, your ship kind of gets hit by something and falls to the ground, but that's in a cutscene before you even play the game, and yeah, it's just kind of, it seems kind of pointless, honestly, and the only reason you would go through the campaign is to unlock the chassis, the 2 different chassis for the Titan. So there are the 3 Titan chassis. There's the middle range one, which is the one you have access to in the beta, called the Atlas. There's the Strider, which is the quick one, and there's the Ogre, which is the slow one. And so that's basically what I did. I just went through the campaign to unlock those. And now I have all 3.
Would you not have liked it if neither of us can deny that it's an absolutely beautiful world that they've created, and it is. Would you not have liked if they had done a single player campaign offline that had an in-depth story that explained what the hell these machines are, why they're here, who the sides are, who's fighting? Would you not have liked that?
I would have loved that. I think I'm the sort of person who prefers the single player experience to the multiplayer most of the time, especially when it comes to something like a first person shooter. And I would have, instead of having this, elongated tutorial, which isn't super interesting and takes far too long, if they had been implementing elements of teaching you the game through a crafted storyline, then yeah, I would have much preferred that, because it would have allowed you to, have access to all the different types of Titans, given some more background at a slower pace where you can absorb it more, and not have a reliance on being connected online, because, even if you're doing the campaign, you have to be connected. It's not a huge deal because I'm connected all the time anyway, but for some people, it's definitely a thing which puts people off, because there are parts of America, huge parts of, even in the UK, where people don't have super solid internet connections, and this is an online only game, so it does limit them. Certainly it limits their market potential in terms of selling to a wide enough audience. And yeah, I would have really appreciated that, but it's kind of unfortunate it's not there. I'm thinking that maybe in the second game, the follow-up to this, they'll do something like that. At least I hope they do. This was really kind of setting the table, as it were. I think it was, I can't remember who it was, on the Giant Bombcast, someone described Titanfall as the first Assassin's Creed, where, they lay the groundwork, but then the second game is where they're going to kick it into gear and actually get things right, and it becomes like a much more critically acclaimed title. So I feel that is a way that they'll go with it. Definitely.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of the gameplay, I've been enjoying it a huge amount. My favorite Titan to use is the quick one, the Strider. So it has 3 boosts, which means that you can get around places a lot quicker. And I haven't honestly found that I'm less durable. I guess the point of it is that you're frailer than, the standard one or the Ogre. But I have been able to survive. So what I found quite often is if I have a really good game in the Titan, I'll generally have a really solid game overall. So one of the best games I had recently was, I managed to get 6 pilot kills, which is 6 human players, 4 Titan kills, and 43 minion kills. So I was going ham. Like I was so proud of myself. I did really well in that game, and that was using the combination of a setup where I had the smart pistol, so I could really get minion kills quickly, farm those early, get my Titan quick, and then I just stayed in my Titan and stomped on people, and went around, and yeah, it was great. So there is a huge amount of satisfaction to be gleaned from doing super well in a match, because you get a bunch of experience, you see that level bar go up. It's this feedback loop which I understand why they kept it there, because it's a Call of Duty thing that is so successful, and it makes sense to just keep it there. I'd be interested to see what you think playing Titanfall, Bally, because have you played like COD before? Do you have any experience with first-person shooters?
I played a bit. Yeah, a bit is an overstatement. I've played a little bit of COD. I can't remember which one it was. This was in my second year of uni. We had a flatmate who was unreal at COD. Literally, he was better than Shaq. This is our friend Shaq, right? I think I mentioned before.
You did last
episode,
episode, yes.
He hates it when I tell him he's better than that. But yeah, so this guy and my friend Shaq both used to play tons of COD, especially in second year of uni, and I'd sort of play along with them. And I was really bad, but I got the addiction. Like I felt it. Like I could understand why it was so addictive and a really good game. Obviously, there's loads of games I prefer to COD, but I'd be interested to try out Titanfall. I mean, it's definitely not worth a PC or an Xbox One purchase for me just now.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, no, I'd love to give it a go.
Yeah, certainly. And over the summer, you can.
I take it you were playing keyboard and mouse.
Right. So that's something I want to talk about as well, because I am a console gamer. I have been for the entirety of my life. I use gamepads. I use controllers.
The entirety of your life?
Well, you know.
I just came out and I was just playing my console.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fucking in the womb with my freaking Dreamcast or whatever. So it's an interesting thing to get used to using a keyboard. The mouse is fine. I'm perfectly at home with the mouse. It's so much more accurate and easy to use than a joystick. A second joystick on a controller. The mouse is perfect. There's no problem I have with that. Problem I have is with the keyboard, mainly because every button feels the same. And though there is, directional differences in where you're putting your finger, I find myself so much of the time messing up and not hitting the right button. So when you get into like a close quarter situation, and it's, pilot on pilot, and the best thing to do is to like jump and kick them in the face. What that requires me to do with my dexterity is to hit the space button and then move my finger down to the C button, which is kick. But a lot of the time what will happen is I'll move my finger down and hit a different button instead of the kick button, and end up not being able to get the kick off, and then my opponent obviously has the advantage, and they'll take me out before I can take them out. But it's all a matter of getting quicker and getting those twitch reactions down, which I'm having some trouble with, honestly. So, I mean, it'll get better with time. I'm sure it will. But that's just how it is, and I just have to get used to it, honestly. But yeah, keyboard and mouse is interesting. So I've leveled up to like 22. I believe that the max level is 50, and then after that you prestige, which means like you go back to level 1 and go through all the way again, but you have a nice little emblem saying that you've already been through the game. So I don't know if I'll do that. I think maybe I'll get to level 50 eventually and just kind of stop there, because I'm not super into first-person shooters, but I'm always going to leave the door open on Titanfall. And as I said, it's a perfect podcast game, so I'll jump into a lot. If I just want to listen to a podcast and, have something else to do while I do it, then Titanfall's a great candidate for that. So definitely, nice. That's Titanfall. So we don't have much time left to talk at the end here, but I'll quickly give a mention to a game that I completed this week, which is an indie game on Steam called Electronic Superjoy. And if you know me, you know that I love games like Super Meat Boy, these really masochistic platformers, these indie platformers that really, you die a hell of a lot, but there's just this satisfaction to just continually bashing it's like you earlier with you bashing your head against the wall. You just keep going with it. I actually never really find myself getting frustrated with those kind of games because you start again so quickly after you die. And again, we mentioned this before with Mario, how sometimes you'll be at a level which is, quite long, and, you get to a point when you die and you have to wait all this time to get back because there's a loading screen. And
there's the jungle with the death, and then there's a pause, and then there's...
Yeah, and I mean, those are very different type of platformers. Mario is...
Absolutely.
A lot more straightforward. There's not much twitch movement going on, whereas these are just precision, like utter precision platforming. One slight move in the wrong direction and you're screwed. You have to start again. But the way that they implement it with no lives, nothing of that type, and just constantly getting you back in, super addictive. And
how much was the game?
I think I picked it up for about 50p in a Steam sale. So
50p.
You can't complain, I'm going to be honest. And it's something, I was interested in. I saw Total Biscuit's video on it, and I was like, this totally looks like something I'd be interested in. So I got it in the Steam sale, and I mean, the interesting thing about it is it's super bright and colorful and will burn your eyes, like, horribly. So I could only play it for about an hour at a time. It took me about 4 hours to beat, but it was like 4 play sessions, but after an hour, my eyes would start to just fucking melt out my face, and I would turn around. I turned around and looked at my Breaking Bad poster behind me, and like Walter White's face would just start melting. I was like, oh my god, what's happening? This is like, I'm on some drugs or some shit going down here. So yeah, that was certainly interesting, but it is a great game, a lot of fun, super hard, and if you have, some spare change lying around when a Steam sale rolls about, Electronic Superjoy is the name of the game. Give it a try. I hope you'll enjoy it, because I really did.
Is it the hardest yet?
No, definitely not. I think They Bleed Pixels is the hardest, which is a game I still haven't completed. It's sitting there, and maybe I'll talk about it at some point in the future. But yeah, it's up there with Meat Boy. It's up there with VVV. And I love it. It's great. So that's gonna be it. So. We are going to wrap up this segment, and after we come back, we are going to be jumping into our feature topic, which is a retrospective of the Nintendo Wii. So don't go anywhere, we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with some more of this podcast, and we're going to jump straight in to our feature topic, which is a retrospective of the lifetime of the Nintendo Wii. A system which saw a rise and a fall and everything in between, and a lot of craziness surrounding it. So I guess we're just going to start at the very beginning with, when it was first conceived and what was happening and all that good stuff. So I believe that the initial announcement regarding the Wii was back in 2005. And so here's the thing I remember very clearly. I believe Iwata was president. I think he was, and he came out and he showed this box. And
it was blue.
Was it blue?
I don't know. I want to say blue for some reason.
Okay, so it was a color. It was white, black, or blue. Who knows really what it was? But it basically was described by many people as 3 DVD boxes in height and width and everything. If you took 3 DVD boxes, stacked them on top of each other, that was about the size of the console you were getting. So I remember doing this. I remember just being in my house and grabbing some DVD cases, stacking them on top of one another, and being like, oh man, this is what the new Nintendo system's going to be like. This is how big it's going to be. And yeah, I just remember doing that. Did you do that at all, Bally? Do you remember that statement that was
I
made?
do remember this statement, and I remember the images of him holding it up and just thinking, like, God, I want one of those so badly. I don't even know what it does, but I want one really badly. Because at
Yeah.
that stage, it was called the Nintendo Revolution.
Yes. So that was the initial.
So we had no idea what it did.
Right. So the name, the code name, as Nintendo do, and every company really does this in the industry. Like some examples of, GameCube was Dolphin. Um, I guess DS is an interesting one because I think its original name was actually Nitro, and then DS was like a secondary code name.
What was Cafe? What was Project Cafe?
That was Wii U. Wii
Oh,
U was
was it?
Project
Okay.
Cafe, yeah, and and then there was Project Natal, which was the Connect. All across the industry, these companies use code names. It's even, just happened very recently. Sony just announced their virtual reality headset, which is called Project Morpheus, which I'm sure will not be the final name. They will, of course, change that when the time comes to it. But yeah, that's a thing that just happens in general, and so everyone was kind of curious. It's like it's a cool name. Like Revolution was a really slick kind of thing. The box looked slick. It looked like it was going to be this really neat innovation. And so I was super excited for it. I was thinking, this is going to be a cool step forward. Nintendo going to be doing some great stuff. What else do you remember like around that time? There wasn't really much said about it.
It was just a lot of hype about nothing, really, wasn't it? It had
Yeah,
been so long since the GameCube, and Nintendo were really not doing too great, and it was really kind of it's kind of it's all that chat about, oh, Nintendo's back against the wall. When their backs against the wall, they produce the best stuff, sort of thing. And so we were kind of in that position, and it was kind of a lot of hype, like I said, without knowing what the box did. And I mean, I think when they said it was the revolution, they obviously implied it was going to revolutionize gaming, but we had no idea how at the time.
yeah. Like, what
Um,
did that mean? What did that even mean? It was
yeah,
interesting.
exactly. I mean, I can't remember what I thought it would mean. I thought it was. I, I don't know. I was an open-minded young teenager up for whatever it was gonna do. So
Exactly. I mean, it
yeah,
was a Nintendo console. We were gonna buy it no matter what. So
yeah.
yeah, we're kind of just into the ecosystem at that point. And yeah, especially, after GameCube, I mean, we certainly weren't very aware of the industry at that time and like how sales were, but we were certainly aware of going into a game store and seeing the GameCube section be tiny and hardly any games, whereas Xbox and PS2 dominated the retail space. Like that was
Mm,
that was something that we knew about. The GameCube was certainly the least popular of the three
yeah.
consoles, and that awareness was kind of like, you know what, maybe this will be bigger, and hopefully, it'll get more space in stores and it'll be interesting. So
Just keeping in line with the timeline, was that the same E3 where it was the initial Twilight Princess trailer?
I believe the Twilight Princess trailer was E3 2004,
Okay,
so it
okay.
was a year after that.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, that the big hype for Twilight Princess, because Twilight Princess originally a GameCube exclusive that was going to be on
Yeah.
GameCube, and it really is fundamentally still a GameCube game,
Hmm.
in terms of visuals and everything and all that stuff. But they just kind of slap stuff, motion control. But we'll get to Twilight Princess, of course, a very
Absolutely.
important game of the Wii's launch. But yeah, I mean, there was like not much to be said apart from that. They kind of went quiet on all fronts regarding the new system, and there was just lots of speculation going on. And that was until, of course, they revealed, I believe it was at GDC, or maybe it was Tokyo Game Show. I think it was maybe Tokyo Game Show. They unveiled the Wii controller, it still wasn't called Wii at this point. It was
Hmm.
still called Revolution, and they showed the controller. This was huge. This just made waves everywhere. People were going crazy. Like, what the hell is this? Is this like a TV remote? Like, what's going on? What are they doing? And certainly, like, the idea of the name Revolution started coming into mind, and people were like, okay, so this is going to be something completely different. They are just going off in a weird direction here. What were your first thoughts upon seeing the controller, Bally?
I thought my very first thought was actually just from a pure gaming perspective was, where the hell's the analog stick? And then I remember either you or someone else or something I read was like, oh yeah, and then it comes with this nunchuck and it plugs in, and I thought, that's actually really cool. And like, I didn't even consider the whole idea of waving around the Wiimote by itself doing stuff. I just thought, oh, you have like your hands apart. That's really weird.
Definitely.
But yeah, obviously when it was clear it was motion control, and then it was like, whoa, how's that gonna work? What on earth am I even gonna do with that? Like,
Yeah, people were coming up with all these possibilities, and like I'm not sure if they even explicitly said it was motion control. I mean, they must have done, like, to explain the controller. Otherwise, they're kind of putting it out there and like, well, here's a stick,
Yeah.
and it kind of like looks like a regression unless you talk about motion control. So I'm pretty sure they probably did, drill down into the fact that, yeah, this is going to be a new way to play. This is going to be something different. So there was certainly excitement. I was also very much thinking, when they announced the nunchuck and they were like, there's this port in the back you can plug it into, I was thinking, wow, they could probably like plug in a bunch of different things into this Wii remote and do all these peripherals. That's something that never really, I feel, happened. There was never really a proliferation of things that plugged into the Wii remote, aside from the classic controller and the nunchuck. Like, it didn't go much further than that. Which I thought was a bit of a shame, because I thought, there'd be some cool other stuff. Because Nintendo always known for their peripherals, like, the Rumble Pack on N64 and that kind of stuff, and the light gun with the Super Nintendo, like all these weird things that they do. They obviously did a bunch of peripherals on Wii, but those weren't necessarily connected to the Wii remote itself. So yeah. So after that, they still weren't talking a lot about it. This is what Nintendo really do. I mean, they've been bucking that trend because of Nintendo Direct and how that has changed things. It's allowed them to do more frequent announcements across the year.
Their management of the hype train has completely changed since that model.
Definitely. Yeah. Like, I mean, what they used to do was only use corporate shows to announce things. And that was the only time we would get new news out of Nintendo. Whereas this time, it could happen. You could be sitting there on a Wednesday and Nintendo tweets like, "Oh, by the way, tomorrow at 3 a.m. there's going to be a Nintendo Direct. Be ready." And you're like, "Oh shit, something new's happening!" Like, what the hell? Yeah, but definitely they control the hype train in a very different way back then, and leak things out very, very slowly. So it wasn't until, I believe, a couple of weeks, maybe like a month or so before E3, that they dropped the big bombshell, the one that sent the internet fucking crazy, which was the reveal of the actual name of the system, which was not going to be called Revolution, and they called it Wii. I mean, it's so nowadays it's so synonymous. I mean, it's a brand name. Everyone understands and recognizes it. It's universal worldwide and all that good stuff, but at the time, it was ridiculous. I mean, it still is pretty fucking ridiculous, but,
it is, but we think about it less now, don't we?
Exactly. Like, PlayStation is a ridiculous name. I mean, come on, PlayStation. Like, what the hell? It sounds like some lame child's toy.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. An Xbox, it's like, ooh, we're trying to be cool and edgy. But you don't even think about those things anymore, But
I remember actually being told what the name was. I didn't actually look it up myself at the time. And this is to bring Shaq back into this podcast yet again.
Okay.
We were in school walking into some lesson, or maybe it was like early morning chapel. I can't even be bothered to explain what that is to our American listeners.
Too much of a tangent.
Yeah, too much of a tangent. But go with me. So we're walking in, and he just goes, "Oh yeah, did you see they announced the name of the revolution?" I was like, "Okay, what is it?" And he goes, "It's called the Wii." And I was like, "You're bullshitting me! Like, what is this? Like, are you serious?" And he goes, "No, honestly, it's called Wii." And it wasn't the Wii. It was just Wii. And it was like, it can't be. Are you kidding me? So I later in the day went back and looked up online, and sure enough, and I was just absolutely gobsmacked. I was so stunned that they'd gone with this WII. It's just so strange. But it took me months to get used to it, to be honest.
Oh, definitely. I actually remember, like, you came round to my house, and I have this weird... So I have these memories just kind of stand out at me for some reason. This memory of us walking up the stairs to my room, and, like, me saying like, "Oh, I'm not calling it Wii. I'm just gonna call
Oh,
it
yeah.
Revolution."
Yeah.
I just remember that so vividly. I'm just like, "No, I'm not calling it Wii. I'm just not. I'm just calling it Revolution. That's the name. We're just gonna call it that." And of course, that never happened because
Mm.
we got used to it and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it was a shock. It was a huge shock, and especially I feel like we felt a little bit like they weren't going to break too much into the mainstream because they're like, oh, they're making this name that is so easy to make fun of, and Nintendo were relatively easy to make fun of. For people of our age who were like 13 or whatever at the
Mhm.
time, and in school, Nintendo isn't a cool company. They're
Mm.
not the hip people to have a console for, so they're very much considered like a kiddie system. So going down this route and making this name that is so easy to make fun of just made things even worse. Like you're not gonna admit at school like, oh
I
yeah,
got
I
a
have a
Wii.
Wii, it's so great, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was kind of a bit of a blow, but
But we
it
got
sunk
used to
in,
it. Yeah.
and I think it was a really smart decision for them to announce it before E3. Because if they'd gone into E3 and they'd announced the name there, that is all anyone would have been talking about. They wouldn't have concentrated on the system. They wouldn't have
Yeah.
concentrated on the games they were showing off. So I think it was a good idea to get out of the way early and just clear the path so that on E3 they could focus on the system, the games, and all the experiences they had on offer. So that segues us nicely into E3 itself in 2006, which was 6 months before the launch. They didn't actually like. This is interesting because Wii U had two E3s. I feel like it was 2012 and 2013.
Hmm.
No, 2011 and 2012 because I'm getting
Yeah.
my
No, that
timelines
makes
mixed up.
sense. No.
Right. So we only had one where it was really showing off experiences and stuff. And so I remember pretty vividly because I downloaded this thing on my computer. It was like the E3 All Access, some nonsense. And it was like sponsored by GameSpot. And you could actually, this was the first time where I really got into internet video and watching stuff online because you could download things to this like app on my computer, and I watched all of the demos, and they just had me mesmerized because they were doing all these cool things. I'll tell you what, the demo which had me the most excited was drums. Like, there was this stupid tech demo with drums. You held two Wii remotes, one in each hand, and you would just, like, you hit the air and the drums would be hitting in like real time. I was like, "Oh my god, that is so cool. I really want that." Like it was one of those things that just came to me, and I was like, I'm so hyped about this drum tech demo. Of course, that kind of ended up in like Wii Music, and by that point, I couldn't give a flying fuck. But at the time,
Years
I
later.
was so into it. Do you remember much of that E3 and the demos that
I
was shown
think
off?
was that the same one where they showed off Twilight Princess and this is how you fire an arrow and this is how you...
Yes,
I
they
think
show they announced that Twilight Princess would be a GameCube and Wii title.
yeah, I thought the Twilight Princess footage and the demonstration using the Wii Remote and nunchuck combo was the thing that got me the most excited at that point in time.
Right.
Obviously, Wii Tennis and this Wii Sports was great, but for some reason I was just more excited about the idea of firing an arrow and stuff like that.
And I mean, even at that E3, they had footage of Galaxy,
Yeah,
and Galaxy
I thought they
was
had a
looking.
playable
They did,
run
yeah, they
around
did. They
thing.
did have
Yeah,
a playable demo at that E3. I remember watching some footage of people playing it, and it was just like it was mind blowing the stuff they were doing
yeah.
because this was Galaxy. We kind of fail to remember at this point because it's so synonymous now, but it was such a game changer. It was really out
I
of
seem
left
to remember
field.
that demo didn't have much gravitational stuff, but it was kind
Yeah,
of like a bit similar to how 3D World wasn't showing its full potential. Like that, it was just showing this is Mario. He looks really awesome, and here he is jumping around this generic level, and it was kind of still quite. Whoa, that looks so much better than Sunshine did from the GameCube.
right.
So
And I mean, to draw comparisons between, last year's E3 and this E3 that we're talking about, 3D World's reveal compared to Galaxy's reveal, it's just like light years apart,
yeah,
pardon the pun,
absolutely.
but, Nintendo were really kicking ass there.
I feel like Galaxy was really on the coattails of that whole hype train from Wii Sports, especially, and it was, oh, here's this new remote, and don't forget we've got Mario, and then it was like, oh yeah, Mario's looking really good, and it was kind of getting more media attention than it normally would.
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, and I mean, I remember that Twilight Princess demo as well because it was part of Gora Mines. Ended up being that segment. So yeah, it was. Wii Sports was the big one though. Wii Sports was the game that I remember everyone was talking about. Like the sites that I was reading and that kind of stuff. Everyone was talking about Wii Sports, and just the lines for people to play it and everyone to give it a try was ridiculous, and that was the big hit. And I mean, it ended up being the best-selling game of all time. But whatever, casual, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, so that was E3. It was a fun time. It was exciting, and it was kind of building up a lot of hype for the launch. And so before launch, Nintendo had a pretty solid marketing campaign. Like, I can't actually really remember the UK advertisements. Do you remember the individual, adverts that were in the UK being aired?
Not really. I swear it was just some people standing around swinging their arms with the Wii
Yeah.
and
Yeah, but I think that the American one was much more significant. It was these two Japanese men going around to people's homes and them bowing, and
we
then
would
that
like to
bow.
play.
Yeah, we would like to play
Yeah.
the tagline they used, and like them bowing and turning into the two eyes of Wii. Like it was smart. It was really good, and they hit the mainstream running because they were on all these daytime TV shows, these shows that moms would watch in the middle of the day. I say mom because I'm
Mom.
referring to America, and they really kind of caught that blogger mom kind of
Yeah.
idea. So yeah, they were on that, and that really contributed to the launch, which was just
November,
so it was November for America. Yeah,
and it was December for something for us.
it was December 8th, and I remember
December
that
8th?
day, and I will never forget that day.
Neither will I.
I'll never forget
I
that day.
finished my week-long art exam on that day,
Yeah, you
and
did.
then I guess we should get on with the launch
launch
day
story.
story. Yeah, so
Exactly.
we all went to our friend Ali T's house, all three of us, after school on a Friday, and he had the system. I think my mum had bought the system for me during the day, and that was sitting for me at home. But we were all going to Ali T's house to play his system and see what all the hype was about. So we all got to his house, and then Ali T was kind of playing it cool, like, oh, I don't even know how to set up this thing, and I'm like, don't worry, Ali T, I've watched like 30 videos of Americans opening it online. I'll help you out, and we just set it up in 2 seconds. Got the Wii bar out, the motion play. What am I even trying to say? The sensor bar. There we go. We got the sensor bar set up, and then the thing that shocked me most about this unboxing, I think you might agree, MBZ, was how tiny the Wii remotes were.
Yes.
They
Yes.
like my hands. I don't think my hands grown a terrible amount since I was like 13, 14, but they were just tiny. They just felt so delicate and small and intricate. They felt really Japanese.
I was shocked. I was utterly stunned because I came in later. You guys were already there, so I came later,
Oh right.
and you handed me a Wii remote, and I held it and looked at it, and I'm like, it's this small? Like, what? I was utterly shocked because, I'd only seen it in videos and in footage online, and I'd never really paid attention too much to the scale difference between someone holding it and the controller. And so holding it in my own hands was just, I'm holding one right now in my hands, just looking at it. Now I don't even have a second thought about it, but it was tiny. And I was shocked. I was like, what? It's really this small? This is so weird. So yeah, that is definitely a standout thing that I thought. But my launch story was a little different, a little more
Sad.
well, we could put it that way. So I didn't pre-order it. I made the mistake of not doing that because I'd never pre-ordered anything before. Like, I didn't think I needed to. I didn't know that the Wii was going to be this ridiculous.
It's not something you do as a Nintendo fan at that point in time.
Oh, exactly. I mean,
pre-order stuff.
coming off the poor sales of GameCube and all that stuff, that I'm thinking I can walk in day one, pick up a Wii, go home, and be happy. And that wasn't the case because they just weren't anywhere. They were nowhere. And I realized just a few days before launch that this was going to happen, and that, after hearing stories from America how no one could find one and they were out of stock, I was like, shit, that's probably going to happen here too. So I told my mom to like go and go to Game and like get a pre-order down and see if that was possible. And she tried and she did, and she got one sorted, and she's like, okay, they'll text me and we should be okay. I was like, okay, fine, this should be good. And then like she doesn't get a text and she doesn't get a call from them or anything, and I'm like, my heart sinks. I'm like, oh my god, no, this can't be happening. This isn't happening. This is my one day, my launch day. This is the time when I should have the system and be playing it. And I didn't have it, and I was just, it was distressing. It really was, because I was just so invested, and we had built up the hype for this system so much. We'd just been unbelievably excited for it, and at that age, it means a lot. It's like life or death. So I didn't have it on launch day, and I had a great deal of fun playing it with you guys, but I went home and didn't have a system. So the next day, I had to go to school because we went to a school which had Saturday.
Another long story.
Yeah, well, I went to school and got picked up by my mom and sister. And the evening before, I told them, can you please go out tomorrow morning and try and find one, please?
I want it now.
Because I really needed it, and so they came and got me, and I got into the car and I just didn't say anything because I'm like, I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to ask whether they got one. And my mom and sister in the front seat. I'm like, so did you go and get? And she's like, yeah, I went and they didn't have any. I was like, oh, no. I was like really fucking sad, but I wasn't like showing it or anything. I was just like silent the rest of the journey back. I got home and I just like, I went mad in my room. This is really weird. I took my pillow and started like smashing it against the bed. I was fucking angry as hell. I started smashing my pillow against the bed, and I just like went in and got a shower, had a shower, came out, and then got changed, went downstairs. I walk into the front room where the TV is, and god damn it, my mom had lied to me, because sitting right there in front of the TV was the Wii box and like Super Monkey Ball, and everything was there, and I was just fucking stoked. And so my mom was a massive troll. And,
that is a great story.
Yeah. Well, it eventually turned out happy for me, so I got it the day after launch. But
Fair
I had
enough.
one. I had one.
I guess we should say that you and me both got the same launch games, which, correct me if I'm wrong, were obviously Wii Sports.
Yes.
Wii Play, because we both wanted the extra Wiimote.
Exactly.
Twilight Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And Monkey Ball.
Yeah, I forgot you got Monkey Ball as well.
And I think Ali T got just the first three, so he got Wii Sports,
yes.
Wii Play, and Twilight Princess. So
he did, yeah.
So Friday evening, I mean, we just played some Wii Sports 2-player, didn't we? And we did a bit of Wii Play as well, I seem to remember. And then
what I remember is that we played Wii Play while Ali T sat on his DS and didn't play and participate. He wanted to play Zelda, and he was like, "Oh, I don't care about Wii Play." So.
And we were like, "Okay, Ali T, you can have your time with Zelda." So we just sat there and watched him play about the first maybe half hour of Twilight Princess, which was good fun to watch. And we were just so like hyped; it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, did you go back and play much Twilight Princess that weekend?
I think I did, yeah. I mean, I didn't put a huge amount of time into it, but I got, through the first area and probably up to, like, the first dungeon was what I did. But, yeah, I was getting into... I mean, Twilight Princess was actually the first Zelda game that I had properly owned on my own, because I never really was into the series at that point. It was, like, the first Zelda game I got into.
You're right. Me and Ali T were already hooked on kind of Wind Waker and a few other games.
And you had Minish Cap and that stuff. So yeah, it was really my first entry into the series, and I enjoyed it a hell of a lot. And fitting, because I actually recorded some Twilight Princess today.
Go check it out, guys. Come on.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it was great. But there's another notable launch title that none of us got, but
Hmm.
received a lot of attention. I remember
Indeed.
the infamous review in O&M of Red Steel, which they gave 91%, which I believe is a
Really?
standout from the majority of games media, because majority of people said it was utter trash. And from what I could tell, yeah, it was pretty crappy. And it didn't really fulfill any of the promises of, using swordplay and gunplay on the Wii that well.
Mm.
I think Red Steel 2 eventually ended up being okay, but this game was just a mess from all accounts, and none of us got it because we weren't really into that
Although,
kind of stuff.
to highlight him again, he's really famous this episode. Shaq picked it up. I think he
Really?
got a Wii, I think, a few months after launch, and he certainly picked it up and played. I don't know if he completed it or not. I suspect he probably did because he's that kind of person. But
Right.
I don't know what he thought about it. I don't think he thought it was particularly bad. But
Did you ever go round to his place
I
and
think
play
I
a bit
might
of
have
it?
watched him play. I don't think I played it myself. It didn't.
Okay.
I mean, we at the time especially, I really didn't give a crap about like
Oh,
FPSs or
yeah.
swinging a sword around. So I was just like, yeah, that's okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly. Our,
go
our
back and.
taste our tastes weren't in that kind of area,
But I
so
think there is one epic story we should also mention in this segment,
yes,
which
definitely.
I'm
You
sure
go ahead
we
because it
were
involves
getting
you.
to. So I
Sure.
think the Wii had maybe been out for a few weeks, maybe a week or
Yeah,
two,
yeah, definitely.
and I came around to your house one weekend, and we thought, you know what, we've not tried yet. We've not tried the multiplayer because there must have been about 50 mini games
There
in
were exactly 50. Yes,
exactly for Super Monkey Ball,
it
banana
was Banana Blitz.
banana
Yeah.
blitz, yeah. And there was one game in particular we really enjoyed actually. Now you have to remember that this was before um the, well, I won't spoil the story yet. Okay, so we were playing the game I can't remember, Monkey Baseball.
Yeah.
The premise is that it's just timing. There's like a machine that throws a ball, and you have to hit the ball as far as you can. You basically swing the Wiimote, and that's literally it. Um, so you took your turn, hit the ball. I took my turn. We had a few turns each, and then it was back to my turn. And now, being a good boy like I am, I was wearing my strap,
Hmm.
and my hand was my hand was okay. It wasn't that sweaty really, and I was
I think we
just
should also point out that at this time there were lots of stories going around of
loads
Wii Remote smashing TVs because
HD
people weren't wearing
TVs.
the straps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people not wearing the straps, just being idiots, destroying everything. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna be a good boy and wear my strap. And so the it should also meant describe your room. So this is like your main room,
Yeah.
quite large. Um, not a whole lot to hit near me. If
Yeah, it was a big open
yeah, big
space.
open space. So the ball pitches. I swing my arm pretty fast, and basically the Wiimote slides out of my hand. And I kind of think at that, well, I wasn't thinking that quickly, obviously, but I thought, I've got my strap on. It's not nothing. The strap breaks,
Yeah.
and the Wiimote continues to soar across the room, and just makes the biggest. It was a pretty loud noise. It just
Yeah.
smashes into your double glazed window, I should add. And thank fuck it didn't break it, because it just hit it, made a massive dong, and then just fell to the floor. And we were both just standing there with our
It was just
mouths
silence.
wide open. Like, I felt so bad that I'd almost smashed your window, and at the same time I was so thankful it hadn't. And I just remember we were just standing there silent, and your mum walks in like, what was that? And then you were like, oh yeah, Bally just threw his Wiimote against the window. And I was just like, yeah, my strap broke. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really bad. But so
And
yeah, and
and that
that
Wii Remote has never really worked properly since
yeah,
then,
that
right?
Wii remote. I think I finally binned it like 4 years later, because it just constantly kept disconnecting, because it definitely was something up with it inside.
He had taken a mortal injury
Absolutely.
early
But
on.
yeah, so lesson was learnt, and later obviously we'll get on to that, I'm sure, but the condoms came out.
Oh yeah.
and they help a lot, and they feel comfortable, and reinforced straps as well. So yeah.
Yeah, the straps got much better, and they did all that. So we're in a much better position now. But there you go. So yeah, I mean, not much else for the launch experience. I think we covered
Yeah, no,
most of everything.
absolutely.
But that's going to do it for the first segment of our Wii retrospective. But when we return, we are going to be taking a look at some of our favorite games from the Wii's lifespan and going through them chronologically. So I hope you guys will stick around, and we will be right back. And welcome back to the third and final segment of the podcast, where we will continue our retrospective of the Wii. And, after talking about all the launch stories and all that great stuff, let's get into the games. Let's talk about the things that define the system, the games we were excited about, and the ones that we were playing, and all that good stuff. So, let's talk. Let's just jump in with the big guns straight away. So after we did talk a bit about the launch games in 2006, and I think we covered those well enough. We both loved Twilight Princess, and had good fun with the other things. But the main one, the big gunner, was Mario Galaxy, the original Mario Galaxy. Now, I remember very distinctly with Galaxy that you had this game before I did,
Did I?
and yes, you did, and. So I remember the day you got this because I was voice chatting on DS with you.
Oh, that's how we
And
used to communicate. I
yes,
remember,
we
yes.
communicate. We didn't use phones, guys. we used the Wii message board. That's something we should probably talk about as well. Though that's
Yeah.
more related to kind of launch, but
Hmm.
the Wii message board and DS voice chat. And I remember being on like voice chat. I can't remember what game it was. It may have been Pokemon because
It
yeah,
was
Galaxy
always
came out
Pokemon. Yeah.
after we had Pokemon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember, and then you had Ali T round at your house, and like both of you were not telling me that you had Galaxy, and then like you went off to like some secret room and it was like, oh, by the way, I have Galaxy, because you and Ali T were like doing
What?
something where yeah, you and Ali T had a pact where you weren't going to tell me that you had it, but you broke it by going off and secretly telling me in another room. And I was like,
What? I don't remember this.
I remember this
That's
distinctly, and I was like,
hilarious.
oh man, I really want it, and I didn't have it at the time, so I had to wait a bit longer. But what were your first impressions of playing Galaxy for that first time?
Really, really good because at that age, I was not very good at completing games in the slightest. The vast majority of my gaming experience was, how do you call it? Like
Party
pick
games
up and play games, so racing games, driving games, sports games, Wii Sports and Mario Kart and games like that are perfect examples.
and
Burnout
Mario
2.
Party.
Mario Party, yeah, these sort of short thrills that don't have a story mode or a adventure mode that and they're not and then often quite multiplayer orientated. So
Yeah, and I mean that makes a lot of sense because when we were younger, we'd go round to each other's house so often that
yeah.
the games we'd play would always be multiplayer, and so
Yeah.
that's what we lent towards.
So this was probably one of the first games that I played from start to finish in the space of. It did take me quite a while, but it was. I literally 100%ed this game. Well, apart from all the Luigi stuff, I've not done that.
I'm not sure that really counts, but sure.
Okay, sure. But with Mario, I got every single star. And it took me a few months, and I remember you being incredibly impressed that I'd managed to do this, NBZ, at the time.
It drove me to go and do it myself.
Yeah, no, and consistently after school and at weekends, I'd happily just sit down by myself and play up to maybe an hour, and like not a massive amount, but just and I'd constantly get stars. I think part of this was it was so visually appealing and at the same time had great ideas and innovative ideas. And on top of that, for me at that time, it was quite an easy game. Well, not easy, but so much more simple than previous games I'd played, like Mario Sunshine, which I played.
Certainly
I
step
sort of
down in
reached
difficulty from Sunshine.
exactly. So I sort of reached my peak with Sunshine and got stuck, and then never went back to it fully. I mean, I have since quite a bit. Still not completed it. I really should do that. But this game, Mario Galaxy, was just so much easier to pick up and play, and visually fantastic.
It was just so many crazy ideas being thrown at the wall.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it, because every world was something new. And there were these, just different things. And the way that you had to wrap your head around the gravity manipulation was just, it was crazy. It was like nothing you'd ever seen before. And it literally redefined the 3D platformer, which, honestly, Mario's a game which is, very solitary in the 3D platforming genre. There aren't a huge amount of them, but goddamn, does it own that kind of that franchise, and so Galaxy was fantastic, and we've spent a great amount of time playing it. There was another game that came out in 2007 that caught our interest, which was Excite Truck, and this is a game that you had before I did. And me going over to your house and playing it convinced me that I needed this game. I remember I was in the some shopping place, a mall for you Americans, and I was like with my sister, and I was like, "Oh, Mom, I really want this new game, this Wii game, Excite Truck." I played it at Bally's house, and she was like, "Okay, I'll get it for you." So we got Excite Truck, and I was super stoked about it because it was a racing game that I could beat you at. And the reason I could beat you at it was because it wasn't necessarily about coming first, which was interesting.
Yeah.
It was about getting points and doing tricks and that kind of stuff. And for some reason, I was really good at that. I was really good at doing all these twists in the air and these drifts, these long drifts to get all the massive points. And so multiple times, like, you would win the race, but I would actually win overall because of the points difference.
I remember feeling really helpless as well, because I'd be winning the race, but your driving style simply racked up more stars than mine did. So whether I won the race or came second, I was just like, I literally can't win whatever I do. Like, I'd be in the lead trying to do all this crazy shit to try and get more stars and just failing massively. Like, yeah, no, it's a really nice game. The controls aren't perfect, but they did the job because it's an off-roading game and there's no track. It feels like you don't have to be as precise as necessarily you would want to be with something like Mario Kart or another driving game.
Oh, definitely.
I just called Mario Kart a driving game, but yeah.
That sideways style of racing was adopted by pretty much every racing game that hit the platform, most notably by Mario Kart with the wheel, but it was the first one to do it. It was the one that kind of led the way on that and was like, you hold it this way and you turn as if you're like, it was such a cool concept at the time because none of these ideas had yet been implemented. Of course, they're really stale and we don't really care for them at this point, but...
And there was just a great sense of speed, and the gameplay was relatively innovative in the sense that it did what the original Excite Bike did, which was you have your boost, and it's all about controlling your boost and not overheating, which is probably the thing that's the most similar to Excite Bike with that game. And you're constantly, for example, you can drive through water to make sure you stay cool and just stuff like that. It's really
neat.
Really well designed, and I definitely put a lot of hours into that game.
Oh, definitely. It was unfortunate we never got the sequel, Excite Bots, which actually had an online mode, and from all I've heard, is really good and a great follow-up, but it only came out in the US, so we never saw it, which is a bit of a shame. But there are plenty of other games that came out that year, including Metroid Prime 3, a game that neither of us have played. I actually own it. I bought it second-hand a while back. But
oh, really?
Yeah, I do. I got it from Kex
Need to get on
years
that.
ago. Yeah, definitely. So I know Ali T played that and he enjoyed it. There's Super Paper Mario, which was the kind of less acclaimed follow-up to the GameCube GameCube version.
Remember
Ali T got that game as well, and he actually had a glitch where he couldn't get any further.
It kept hanging in exactly the same spot, he said, and he must have done it about 3 times.
Yeah,
I think he said he then traded the game in or something.
He traded it in, yeah. Another one was Mario Strikers Charged. I'm not sure if you got this, or did you pick this up?
Are you kidding me? I have this. I played so much of this.
I guess you did. Oh, I'm just getting confused with the GameCube version.
Yeah,
That's
no,
why.
I didn't own the GameCube version, although I have played it and it's great too. But I bought this game much later than '07, I seem to remember, and absolutely loved this game.
Played a lot of online, right? I believe this was one of the first online games on
Yeah,
Wii.
no, absolutely. I think it was the first. I think the big deal was that it came out in Europe first. So
Right.
basically, Europeans were the first people ever to play online Wii, and it was mixed. Some games were a little glitchy, others were completely smooth. From my experience, absolutely loved this game. It really evolved a lot from the GameCube game. I've got it with me in London just now. Actually, I played a bit a while ago, but yeah, it's a really good game.
Some other notable mentions: Fire Emblem, which I still haven't played, but from what I've heard, it's a solid game, and Pokemon Battle Revolution, which again one of the first online games on Wii. I believe the first one in Japan, and I have certainly had my fill of Battle Revolution, and I've done a lot of it. And it's cool, but it wasn't necessarily the Pokemon console game that everyone wanted.
And it wasn't
Um,
even like Pokemon Stadium is the problem,
No,
isn't
it
it?
it
Yeah.
felt much hollower and it had less of a soul than stay. It just felt like this simulation without
Mm.
any frills. That was it. It was very straight up and simple and no messing around. The other significant one was WarioWare, which we're not going to talk a huge amount about, but yeah, Ali T was around at my house when that game launched as well, and we blasted through the single player. It was a very short game to do,
Yeah.
but WarioWare was hilarious on Wii. I don't think it's the best WarioWare. I think it's probably one of the
Yeah.
weaker ones, but there was some really hilarious things that game offered, and especially when the system was new and gimmicks were kind of fresh, it felt okay and it felt enjoyable, and I liked it. It was a good time. And it's a good multiplayer mode, decent multiplayer
Hmm.
mode as well. But the other really significant one, which this is the game which I put the most hours into on my Wii. It's Guitar Hero 3. Um,
I remember getting so excited for this game.
and this is the thing, I didn't really have an awareness of Guitar Hero until after you owned
Oh
it
yeah.
and was playing it.
And yeah, so many good. Yeah, so I was actually I got into Muse just before Guitar Hero came out. This was just as they released Black Holes and Revelations.
Yes.
It was out about a year before the game. So I was getting into Muse through this album, and I was obsessed with Knights of Sidonia. And before I even had heard of Guitar Hero 3, I loved this song. So then when I found out that Knights of Sidonia was in this game, I was freaking out. I think I got this near launch day, if not on launch day for the Wii. And I remember my mum bringing it home thinking like, what the hell is in this box? It's absolutely huge. And then I show her, like, it's a plastic guitar, mum. Look, how cool is this? And then it's just like, I played and I remember mastering medium difficulty and showing you Knights of Sidonia on medium, and you were just stunned at how I was like,
That was the
yeah.
story I was going to bring up. I go over to your house and I sit down and you're like, let me show you this Guitar Hero thing. I'm like, okay. And you just start playing this song and notes are flying past and you are just nailing everyone just fucking perfect. I'm like, holy shit, how are you doing that? Like, I was like stunned into silence, like, Bally, you're a fucking genius. Like, my lord. And yeah, I was just fucking taken by it. I was like, oh my god, I need this. I need to play this and learn this and get this. And I was just so obsessed
Mm,
with it. And it wasn't until Christmas of that year that I actually got it, but I did, and very quickly just went crazy on it and
yeah,
surpassed you and surpassed
yeah.
Ali T and just I
We
couldn't
did. I
stop.
did have my speciality songs,
Yo, you did definitely. You had the
but
songs
then
that you
you
were
just
really good at.
blew me away with the majority after a while.
And I think the thing was like you were much more rhythm based, whereas I was just destroying things like Dragon Force and all the
Yeah. Oh
single string
god.
stuff.
Just to put it out there for listeners, MBZ can complete Dragon Force on hard. I'm not even joking.
Well, I think for the majority of the internet, it's not probably a big deal
Oh
because
yeah. Yeah.
there's lots of crazy people out
We're
there
just
who,
preaching to the choir right here.
yeah, exactly, lots of people who can do much
Yeah.
better than that. But that's a big accomplishment for me
Yeah.
anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of my
At this point, we should probably mention all the other guitar games that we bought. I'll just list
sure.
the ones I bought, certainly. I bought Guitar Hero Aerosmith, Guitar Hero Van Halen. Actually, my friend bought that for my Wii because he was keen to play it. I bought Guitar Hero 4 and Guitar Hero 5, I think. And then on
Four
top...
wasn't a Guitar Hero. Four was World Tour, which I got, which had the
Oh,
drums.
World Tour. You're right, I missed World Tour.
Yeah, it had the drums and the new guitar with the slide pad
Hmm.
and the vocals.
Yeah, and I remember getting 5 because it had the couple of Nirvana songs. And then obviously we both got Green Day Rock Band, which I actually think is the best out of the lot, to be honest, because
I
I'm
really
just
like
such a
Green Day
huge
Rock
Green
Band.
Day fan. But yeah,
Definitely. I also got Guitar Hero Metallica,
yeah.
and I think I got 6 Warriors of Rock.
Oh,
I
really?
bought that in a sale really recently.
Oh, really?
Like,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
for like 250 or something really cheap.
So I'll admit now I bought way too many games, and if I had to pick two, it would probably be Guitar Hero 5 and Green Day Rock Band. I think if I wanted to just refine my collection, those are the two I'd want because I think I just went crazy with them a bit.
Yeah, well, I can never let go of 3. 3 is my favorite, and I think it
Really?
has... Yeah, oh, I love 3. I think 3 is amazing, and none of the other games really ever surpassed it for me. Maybe that was because, I just played it for so many hours, and I was just so invested in all the songs, but I think, like, they really had a good selection of songs which worked amazingly with that
Hmm.
system. So,
I was
there
going
you
to say that Guitar Hero 3 on Wii was actually the best-selling Guitar Hero, which is
go. Right. I
pretty
mean,
pretty
feat.
shocking when you see like how much Wii U is failing right now. That's like saying, "Oh yeah, the Call of Duty on Wii U is the best-selling one." Like,
Right, exactly.
it's
Yeah,
kind of
third-party
amazing.
game being the best selling is
Yeah, I
it's pretty of
guess
a
we should
thing.
move on to
Yeah, we have
2008.
which was big. '08 was
Massive.
the year of the killer titles, including Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, and of course a huge market opener for Nintendo, Wii Fit.
Mm.
So I guess we can just, take Smash and Mario Kart. Maybe we'll go with Mario Kart first. I know you played so much of this,
Oh
especially
yeah.
online.
I mean, I think this is the game I've put most hours into on Wii by quite a long way. I loved this game. I was at first I was a bit mixed about the bikes, but then eventually, with the natural progression of Mario Kart Wii, all the best players start using the bikes, and they use two specific bikes, which are the Mac bike and the Bowser bike. And me and Ali T were actually really like evenly matched at times with Mario Kart, whereas I think between you and me and BZ, it was a little the gap was a little wider. Let's just say.
Don't say a little wider. It was like fucking 17 miles wide.
So that was a shame that we never really had enough
Yeah.
close races.
And as much
Um,
as you love Mario Kart Wii, it is without a doubt my least favorite in the series. I think Mario Kart Wii is a weak title, and I think that it's too chaotic. It's just far too chaotic for me because of the fact that you had so many players in one single race, especially online. It became too much, and I couldn't handle it. It was overwhelming, and yeah, I wasn't really good at it, so I wasn't having a huge amount
yeah.
of fun, which
I
kind of
mean, I
sucked.
personally really liked the 12 racers, and I thought it was a shame they took that out. I can't quite remember for Mario Kart 8 whether it's 8 or 12. Can you?
I believe it's. Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think they've actually announced it yet,
Oh,
so I'm
haven't
not
they?
sure.
I'm sure you
Yeah.
could work it out from some of the screenshots, but
Sure. Yeah.
I'd personally like it if they brought back 12. I agree it was chaotic, and that pack, like if you're packed in the middle at like 5, 6, 7, 8, it's absolutely crazy. But I've played so much multiplayer just with like people at uni and stuff, and it was just really really good fun. Not my favorite Mario Kart, I'll agree. My two favorites are probably 7 and Double Dash, I
Yeah.
think.
The thing that has to be said for Mario Kart that it's so good at doing is bridging the gap between the casual non-gamer and the gaming crowd, because it's a
Yeah.
game that really anyone can play. It's
Mm,
really simple, it's a lot of fun, and it's just easy to pick up. And there were so many control methods for Mario Kart Wii especially
yeah.
that anyone from any background can easily understand. And it had the Wii Sports effect, where turn it on its side, it's a wheel. and you understand that fundamentally. It's a fundamental thing you get. So,
And there was
yeah.
like a mode in the game where you could take drift off, so your car would naturally do a sort of half drift if you turned the corner, and it's
Sure.
just that makes it so easy for grandma, like just here, grandma, here's a Wiimote, turn it on its side and start driving, and it's just kind of
Right.
like it's good.
You know,
It
with the
worked
Wii
well.
wheel, as dumb as that accessory was, it kind of helped some people, I feel.
I
Because,
used it for the first few weeks, few months of that game. That's
yeah,
all I
same.
used, and it was great fun. But then eventually I realized, yeah, it's not quite as good as it as.
Yeah.
So I think I went with a GameCube pad in the end.
Yeah, so did I. So did I.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and the Wiimote
Um,
nunchuck's good too. But
Talking of GameCube pad, we most definitely used a hell of a lot of that thing with Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Oh my god.
what a game!
This game was big for us. It was pretty huge because I think the gap between Melee and Brawl, we had discovered Nintendo through Melee.
That's the I was just about to say, like, Melee was a learning experience for us, whereas Brawl was a genuine retrospective kind of nostalgic experience.
Yes, yeah. And there were so many neat little nods to everything, and that's the thing I love so much about Smash. Not just the fact that it's a great, fun party fighting game, and that all these characters are represented, but all the little tidbits, like all the tiny, sticker things and the trophies, and all of that just put together in one package.
That game even had like incredibly short demos. I had no idea whether how that worked, but you could play like 5 minutes or something of Ocarina of Time. And do you remember that mode?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just, and you could play like 30 seconds of the original Legend of Zelda and stuff like that. It's just really, I have no idea how they did that, but it was just like a nice little touch to say like, hey, we're Nintendo, we go back a long way, this is us. And it was so telling when Sony released their equivalent of Smash Brothers, just how badly it did in comparison. Like,
Oh yeah.
this game Brawl was it's just Nintendo showing off basically, and as a Nintendo fan, it's really great to see.
I mean, Smash Brothers is the definition of fan service.
Yeah.
Like, it is fan service on a disc, and they make it every few years, and we lap it up. And this year is going to be a Smash year. This is the 2008 for Wii U. This is Smash and Mario Kart,
Yeah.
both coming out in the same year. So hopefully we'll see repeated success, but who can tell? Other notable things coming out that came out this year in 2008 was Okami, which was the re-release from the PS2, and I haven't played Okami. I've played a bit of Okami Den on DS, but none of the actual Okami. But this is a hugely acclaimed game, and I think it found a bit more success commercially on Wii because the system was, it was available to a bunch of people who maybe weren't into PS2, and
That's a
that
game
kind of
I'd
stuff,
really
so.
like to try at some point.
Oh, definitely. And
Okami.
it's such
Yeah.
a Zelda clone, not clone, but it's very similar to
Yeah.
Zelda.
Could try and
so-
steal it off Ali T.
You probably could at some point, definitely. And then, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, which, it may seem at this point, there's been so many of these and they're just crappy mini-game hashes, but there was a huge, huge seller for Nintendo and Sega, and I played some stuff with my cousins. It was fun enough. It wasn't anything mind-blowing, but it was decent. And there was Animal Crossing this year as well. Animal Crossing, which I don't know.
We were both very disappointed with.
Yeah, I mean, we both got it. We both enjoyed it for maybe a couple of weeks and then just fizzled out.
But the biggest reason for that is because we'd already had the full experience with the DS version.
Yeah.
And I feel like had we gone to the Wii one straight away, we would have had a fantastic experience. But we
Yeah.
were just a bit burned out.
Oh, definitely. So, I mean, not all Animal Crossings are going to hit in the same way as your first one. It's just the way it is, and I feel that's just the case. And, I played New Leaf last year, and I enjoyed it for about a month and a half, and then I was just like, it's Animal Crossing. I'm done. I've got other things to play, and yeah. So, the big one, though, the real huge one, Wii Fit. This was just a wave maker in terms of, just increasing the sales potential of the Wii and opening up to an even more expanded audience, hitting the market of, getting fit in a kind of relatively cheap way. It was amazing, and I'm not even sure why I bought it, to be honest, but we both did. I can't even remember like the reasoning behind it. I think I was just kind of really into the Wii series of games. Like, I love Wii Sports. Wii Play was great. I was like, oh, it's another one of those. Wii Fit, let's do it. Let's get this crazy thing. I was more kind of into like the balance games and that kind of stuff as opposed to actually getting fit, because there were a lot of fun ones there.
I'll admit I did quite a lot of the fitness stuff, and God, my voice is really dropping. I'm sorry about this. And I did all the yoga and the muscle exercises and the cardio exercises and the games, and I just lapped it all up for a good few weeks, and then I'd come back to it every now and then, months down the line. And even last year at university, me and Charlie, this is another friend of mine. We every time after we went to the gym, we would go back and weigh ourselves on Wii Fit because we just loved the way that it would graph like our weight and our BMI or whatever it was. So we even like last year I was using it.
Right.
And I'm definitely open to the idea of Wii Fit U for the future.
Totally. And there was that 3-month promotion which neither of us took advantage of.
Oh, have we missed it?
I think so, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we can't get in on that, but I don't know, it's always there, and we already own the peripheral, so it's a relatively low barrier to entry at that point, so, but Wii Fit made waves. It was just such a huge hit, and
I did get my parents into it for like a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, same here, same.
Yeah.
Like, I got them to try some stuff out, and, they played it for a bit, and my sister probably played it the most out of the members of my family.
Oh, really?
Because we just went back and forth. A lot of the time, it was just doing the skiing mini game. We just go back and forth doing that, see who could get the longest jump. I think that was my favorite one. Jumping
the
up.
The slalom skiing. Wow, that is difficult.
That was really hard. Yeah, really very difficult. But those were great. I loved those mini games. I thought they were fantastic, and the fit stuff was cool too. I just didn't do a huge amount of it. I don't know, just didn't end up hitting too much. So. Yeah, that was 2008. It was pretty big. It was when Wii was hitting its stride. You still were having trouble finding them, and so many.
It was really weird, wasn't it? Everyone thought that they were doing it on purpose for publicity. Just
sure.
Oh, you can't find the Wii. Oh.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, moving on to 2009, which was a very weak year, I feel, in general.
For
not
us,
too
at
many.
least.
Yeah, and just overall, like, not too many tentpole things. All the big ones had hit by this point. You'd had a Mario game, you'd had a Zelda game, you'd had a Metroid game, you'd had, the 3 big franchises, and Smash, and Mario Kart. Like, all these things had hit. Even Animal Crossing was out. So we got New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which,
Neither of us picked up.
Neither of us got it. Neither of us were interested in it.
We were satisfied from the DS version.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't something that was going to, push me over the edge. I wasn't at all interested. There was Wii Sports Resort, which neither of us picked up at all at the time. I since bought it retroactively. I got it like last year. Yeah, I got it cheaply. That's what I do. I just go to like these used game stores and look for old Wii games that I was always interested in for like £5, and I pick them up. So I managed to find that one I got that one for £10 actually, which I thought was a good deal because those games never go down in price ever. So that was decent. But so there were those two games which would, I guess they were fine. But nothing like there was nothing exciting about them because we'd already had Wii Sports. We'd already had New Super Mario Brothers. So these were just iterations. I think the most exciting one, which is one I still want to get, like it's in my backlog, like I don't own it, but it's one of those things I want to pick up cheaply, is Punch-Out!, the remake of the original Punch-Out! Game. And I believe this was Next Level Games as well, who did Mario Strikers and Luigi's Mansion 2 and a bunch of fantastic things, and they did Punch-Out!. And I feel like that's a cool thing that I want to pick up at some point. May get to it, may not, who knows. But yeah, are you interested in, I guess, picking up any of like New Super Mario Bros. Wii or Wii Sports Resort or even Punch-Out! At all? Or are they just like on the periphery?
Not really. I mean, tell you what game I would have liked to have got, that should have got at the time when I was with you in Kex in London, was that Wario game, the 2D one.
Yeah.
I can't remember the full name. But it was on Wii and it was a 2D platformer. But anyway, yeah. I guess we should move on to 2010.
Indeed. So in 2010, there were a huge amount of fantastic games. Obviously, the follow-up to Galaxy, which no one saw coming, Galaxy 2 was announced, and that was a roaring success. I really think that, they outdid themselves with Galaxy 2. It was a hard act to follow, and EAD Tokyo were like, you know what? We can do better, and they did do better. And the thing with Galaxy 2 is it didn't make the same impact just because we gotten used to that idea by this point. But the design, the levels, everything was so much better. And, they included Yoshi, and they had new Yoshi powers and all this great stuff. Level design was fantastic. Music was amazing. The game was just outstanding overall. And I basically 100%ed it, apart from the last level, which we spent 3 hours trying to do and didn't do.
Yeah.
We went through 100 lives, and it was hard. So yeah, you have my copy of Galaxy 2, Bally.
I am currently borrowing this game from you. Yes, I mean, wow, my voice is just going.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I've not played much of it. I think I've got about 10 stars so far. But in the coming months, I think I'm gonna play through that at some point. And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I think it's gonna be good.
Excellent, yeah. Other notable releases, Donkey Kong Country Returns, which I have since played on 3DS, which I think is a great game, fantastic. And yeah, it's just a solid platformer. This was really the E3 when they announced Kirby and Donkey Kong, both of which hit in America at the end of 2010. Kirby actually came out in 2011, so we'll hit that when we get to there. But yeah, Donkey Kong Country Returns came out. Also the year of Metroid Other M, which had a sizzling trailer, E3 2009, and everyone was just going crazy. This was the Reggie's and one last thing for 2009 was the Metroid Other M trailer, and my god, did it cause, huge amount of anticipation. Unfortunately, the game didn't really turn out to be fantastic. I mean, I still haven't completed it, but I have a lot of issues of going back to Other M. I enjoy it in premise, and I think it's a cool idea, but the controls are just bad. The controls are fucking awful, and the idea that you are moving around in a 3D space with the Wii Remote NES style on its side is a horrible, horrible thing, and I just wish that they'd somehow used the nunchuck and implemented analog control, because it would have made it so much more playable and so much more enjoyable. But trying to control Samus with a D-pad, just literally after an hour or so, will just cause horrible irritation on my thumb and my fingers. It's just, I can't handle it. It doesn't work well. And, I like the idea of switching from third person to first person by moving the Wii Remote and pointing it at the screen, but yeah, it just wasn't really working that well. I will beat Other M. It's something that I need to go back to and do, but it's just a little bit of a disappointment. It was cool with the voice acting and everything, but story wasn't fantastic. So there you go. The other game that I picked up that year was GoldenEye Wii, which was a real hit surprise. I actually heard about this game. I was listening to RFN, and this was the year I started listening to RFN. And Johnny Metz was mentioning GoldenEye Wii and how great it was and how much fun he was having with it. And I believe it came out maybe September or so. And he was really raving, like, it has great online, and it's a really cool first-person shooter on Wii, and it's made for the ground up for this system, and this is the first-person shooter that Wii deserves and the one that it got. And I was actually really interested in it, especially because it was using the motion control for a first-person shooter, which was something I was kind of into, because I didn't like the idea of dual analog or any of that kind of stuff on 360 and PS3. So I was excited for it, and I decided, at Christmas, it was like a half price sale. It was down to 20 quid in HMV in like Oxford Street in London. And I was like to my dad, I was like, Dad, please get this for me as an extra Christmas present. And he did. And I was pretty stoked. So I got that, and I had a huge amount of fun with it. We played some multiplayer of it, actually.
We did a bit, yeah. How much of the story mode did you do?
I got pretty far into it. That's again, like 2010 is the year of games which are on my backlog, including No More Heroes 2, which I haven't even started yet. We forgot to mention No More Heroes, which came out in 2008. I actually didn't play No More Heroes until around 2010 and 2011. But yeah, it's one of those third-party games which stands out. It's a third-party game that actually did okay and was built directly for the system, and had some interesting ideas. It's just this crazy brawler, ridiculous. It's essentially, I like to compare it to Shadow of the Colossus, as weird as that may sound, because it's essentially a boss rush. Like, there are enemies you fight before you get to the bosses, but the real game is like the bosses, and the bosses are fantastic. They're crazy, and they take a huge amount of like concentration and skill, and yeah, it's a really really great fun game, and I will get to the sequel at some point, but that will have to follow many other games on this list. So yeah. Um, and I guess, we should probably give a cursory mention to Monster Hunter Tri, because it's such a big franchise and such a big game. Neither of us are really interested in Monster Hunter, but that was the year that came out on Wii, and I think, like, one of those really huge games for that system. So, there you go. So let's move to 2011 then. And
Pretty
two
big
big
year.
ones. Two big ones. The year started off with Kirby's Epic Yarn.
We should say that the Wii is in massive decline by this stage.
Oh, right. Like,
Yeah.
this is where, like, this is the dregs. And there's nothing really coming out for it. After 2010, like, there's nothing hugely new announced or released. And that was when, Project Rainfall started, and everyone was getting the campaign to have Xenoblade and The Last Story and Pandora's Tower come over to the West, because Nintendo weren't releasing them, and people were so frustrated because they were not going to release any other games on Wii that year, and yet they were fucking adamant in not releasing these 3 Japanese role-playing games. And yeah, eventually, thankfully, that turned out, and all 3 of those games got released. The first of which was Xenoblade, and that came out in 2011 in Europe. Took another 6 months for the US, but it came out in 2011 in the UK and Europe. And I picked it up at Christmas of 2011 for, again, half price. It was 20 quid. I was like, wow, Xenoblade's already this price? I'm going to get this straight away, because I just finished up Skyward Sword. I was like maybe 2 hours from the end of Skyward Sword. I was like, I need something big and meaty after Skyward Sword, because I really enjoyed that experience. And I got Xenoblade, and obviously I didn't have a classic controller at the time, so I got to a point where I couldn't really get past and needed a classic controller, and it wasn't until a whole year later that I bought one and finally got into the meat of that game. But yeah, a stellar ride, Xenoblade for sure. Kirby's Epic Yarn was interesting. I think we had this conversation a while ago, when Donkey Kong and Kirby got announced at E3, and we're like, one of us will get Donkey Kong, one of us will get Kirby. I kind of remember that conversation. It never happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But Kirby is cool. I guess that's something that maybe you'd be interested in going back
Yeah,
to.
no, absolutely. It's just finding Wii games these days is quite tough, but
Yeah,
you should
definitely.
check online.
Yeah, exactly. And Epic Yarn was just so cool because of the art style. Like, the game was easy as shit, but the art style was just awesome. And yeah, the way that they played with fabric and all that kind of stuff was pretty amazing. So the big one this year, though, was
The
of course
big
Skyward
one.
Sword. Skyward Sword. Bally, what were your feelings on Skyward Sword?
Just the whole way Nintendo treated this game was perfect, because when you got it, everyone was thinking, oh, what are they going to do about Wii Motion Plus? What about the people who don't have it, like us at the time? And then they're like, don't worry, Zelda fans, you can get a special Wii Motion Plus Zelda Wiimote. On top of that, it's bundled with the game and also bundled with the soundtrack. And I must say that this is musically one of the best Zeldas, so that in itself was really nice to do. They just handled the launch really well. And this was like years and years after Twilight Princess, obviously, where it was kind of like, oh, God, I've not had a Zelda in ages, and they just really nailed it with this one, because I admit the graphical style is a bit mixed and not the best element of this game, but the Motion Plus really does work. Now, I'll admit that I really struggled with this game. Not necessarily the Motion Plus as such, but just some of the enemies I was just really struggling, as you'll know. But
Yeah.
it's not my favorite Zelda ever, but this is a really solid one that I completed in quite a short period of time, considering it's me.
Considering it's you, yeah.
Exactly, I take ages to complete these games. So I really struggled with the final boss, I should also add. But I thought musically, it was great. The story's great. The world creation in the game's quite good. Nice mix of dungeons. It's a really good game.
Totally. And yeah, story is probably one of those things that it did execute on superbly, and I think character was a lot stronger in this game. Nagi always asks us the question about, like, why, get voice acting in Zelda and all this stuff, and even though it didn't have voice acting,
Yeah.
and it was using text dialogue. I think they made Zelda a really cool character and not just a damsel in distress. And Link's relationship with her was much more interesting, and then
Yeah.
the ending was cool and how it kind of set up the timeline for the rest of the games.
I mean, this was
Yeah.
launched at the same time as Hyrule Historia, wasn't it?
It was,
And
yeah. And this was the year of the
yeah.
25th anniversary, so
Exactly,
it was big.
and it just ties that all together really well. Like, it was really well planned. I should also say, you could really tell with this game that it was designed for the Wii and not the GameCube. Whereas elements of Twilight Princess, you could argue, were developed for GameCube, although they weren't.
Well, I mean, the
developed for
entire
GameCube.
game was a GameCube
Yeah.
game.
There are certain weapons in this game. The most notable, in my opinion, was the beetle.
Yes.
I mean, that is probably my favorite weapon in any Zelda ever, and simply because it just changes the game style so much. It just piloting this entire separate entity around areas, and you get it really on in the game. First dungeon, you get this item, and it just explodes the areas that you can search, and
Yeah.
it just added a lot to the game.
Certainly. Skyward Sword was amazing. I really think that motion control was executed like, if the Wii was built for Skyward Sword to eventually happen, I think it fulfilled its purpose. If
Yeah.
motion control existed just for Skyward Sword to be a game, I think it was worth it, because they absolutely nailed it. And I know there are the detractors, there are people who said that it didn't work. To be honest, I think those people just don't know how to use it properly, or they didn't spend enough time with the system to understand it fully. Because for me, I had no problem. Like, initially, of course, getting into it and understanding it was tough, but you stick with it, you work on it, and I became, a sword master, as they might say, and was, demolishing things. So it was great. Skyward Sword, fantastic. And I mean, the Wii had stuff that came out in 2012, but really 2011 was the end, in all honesty. Like, the end of 2012, the Wii U launched, and there was nothing that they had planned in that year. There was the Kirby Wii game called Kirby's Adventure, something like that. I don't know. I can't remember what it was called. It's like a 2D side-scrolling Kirby game, which came out, which I guess was okay. Then The Last Story came out, and Xenoblade came out in America. But aside from that, really nothing. So everything kind of came to an end. It was kind of a slow, dying breath that the Wii was taking. The last 2 years, it struggled hugely. But, man, what a system. What a system that just sold a ridiculous amount, became much more successful than Nintendo probably ever dreamed of, and opened gaming to this whole new audience, which, I guess eventually moved on to things such as tablets and phones and that kind of market, but it really was instrumental in widening the gap. So, a system to be remembered, and one with a huge amount of memories for the both of us. So
Absolutely.
there we go. That was Wii, and that, my friends, is going to take us to the end of our show. So, thank you very, very much for listening. I really enjoyed doing this segment. It was a great feature for us.
I think
to
my
do.
voice just held up enough.
Yeah, mine's almost at its tether as well. Yeah. So yeah, we've pushed all the way through, and yeah, if you enjoyed this segment, this feature, and would like to see us do more things like this, then write in and let us know, and just leave us questions. We are always open to emails and all that good stuff. So write to us at the email address, which is Bally. Would you mind telling us?
nyppquestions@gmail.com.
And we read them all, and we will.
Absolutely.
We'll get into that again next time. Before then, if you would be so kind, we would really appreciate it if you go over to iTunes and leave us a review. Reviews are super, super key in getting exposure and widening the audience and allowing more people to listen to the show. So 5-star us on iTunes, leave us a review, and that would be a huge amount of help, and we would certainly appreciate it greatly. You can also keep up with what we're doing on a weekly, daily basis on Twitter. I am at Lord NBZ on Twitter, also Lord NBZ on Miiverse.
And I'm at Ballyman91, BALLYMAN91, and you can also find me under that name on Miiverse.
Indeed. So that's going to be it, and we are going to close out the show. But thank you again for listening, and we will see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.
See you in the fortnight.
Three, 2, 1. God, that fucked up. Right, let's start again. That was ridiculous.
Couldn't do that again.
Nope. You could not reproduce that if you tried.
I guess you can use that on the, on the end credits. Oh god.